Hello and welcome to a guide on the rising popularity game mode Arena. It came after a request from a subscriber who said everyone on YouTube just focuses on Conquest, which is probably not too far from the truth. So let's buck that trend. Here is a guide on how not just to play but to win at Arena. And my authority on this comes from the fact that I've played and won far more Arena games than I'd like to admit. So Arena is very different to Conquest. It's set in a big round area, it has accelerated XP and gold gain, and is basically a 20-minute team fight. A lot of people, occasionally including myself, imply that it's a lesser game mode, and while it's not my cup of tea anymore, it is a perfectly valid way to play the game. It's great for trying out builds, new gods, practicing team fighting, and learning the game in general. And of course, if you prefer this over Conquest, then good for you. You play the game however you want, and don't let anybody tell you otherwise. So first up, we need to talk about gods, items and builds. As mentioned, almost all the YouTube content on Smite out there is focused around Conquest, which includes builds, item guides and god tier lists. Arena has its own, those which work in Arena might be awful in Conquest and vice versa, so just ignore online guides and come up with your own, or listen to this one I guess. For Arena, the team composition pretty much decides the game outright. If you don't have one that works, then you are right up against it from the start. The entire game is just a team fight, meaning combinations of abilities and a well-balanced team rule the roost. But what is the right combination? Well, any good team will definitely need the following. A tank, which is usually a guardian, someone with big AOE damage, usually a mage, and a constant source of damage, which is usually a hunter or an assassin. And finally, you need somebody to set up kills for your team, which can be performed by a multitude of gods. This leaves one role free, which is basically a flex. Doubling up on any of the other previous roles will be absolutely fine. For tanks, some of the best gods in Arena are Sylvanas, Geb, Hercules, Ganesh, Artio, Terra, Ares, Ymir and Guan Yu. All of these can take a hell of a beating when you build them full tank, which you should be if you are a tank, and have good setups as well. Ultimates or abilities that can engage on the enemy or protect your allies from impending doom. As mentioned, when building tank you want protections, health and mitigation, the holy trinity of defense. Something else that is strong in Arena is aura items. These give a passive effect to allies around you or a negative effect to enemies. With the majority of the game spent grouped up, you are likely to be buffing your entire team or debuffing the entire enemy with just one aura item. Sovereignty, Gauntlet of Thebes, Shogun's Kasari, Voidstone, Heartwood Amulet, all really strong items. If playing tank in Arena, I like to pick at least one of these up per game, but I usually get 2 to 3. Avoid building damage, it's not your job to deal damage, so don't worry about it. Remember to be defensive with your relic too, something which can affect a large group of people like Shell, Frenzy, Not Meditation, or Harrowed Emblem. Your job in the game is to act as either a defensive unit for the team or to set up kills for your allies. You should be stood at the front, stopping enemies from having a free run at your team. Act like a bodyguard, and when you see the enemy advancing, have your abilities ready. And likewise when you see one of them step out of position. For your role of AOE Damager, there is a multitude of gods you can pick from. Poseidon, Scylla, Nuwa, Anubis, Alpoach, Zeus, Merlin, Hades, Persephone, Nox, Hebo, Chang'e. Basically anyone who has an ability that can cause huge damage in an area, since the enemies will likely be grouped up for the majority of the game. When building these gods you just want raw power and penetration to hit hard, and cooldown too to ensure those heavy hits come thick and fast. Rod of Tahuti, Spear of Desolation, Chronos Pendant, Charon's Coin will all give you exactly what you need. When playing mages you need to be wary that you will be the priority target for the enemy, so you need to stay behind your front lines. If you see them backing off, then you need to back off too. If you are stood alone, I can almost guarantee that you will be dived on and attacked and probably killed, so pay attention to where your team are. For the role of consistent damage outputter, pretty much any hunter in the game will suffice, although some do stand out in Arena due to their ultimates or abilities suiting large groups of people being close together. Medusa, Cupid, Izanami, Hachiman, Neith, Artemis, pretty much any hunter really. Although you must remember that most hunters are weak in the early game, so you need to just stay back and farm until you hit that mid game. It's all about landing those basic attacks and shredding enemies down. Luckily for hunters the builds are the same as Conquest. I've made a hunter's build guide before and the link is in the description. Finally we have the person who's doing the setups for the team. Primarily you are looking to land a crowd control on enemies that your team can follow up and secure the kill. Your job here is to act as a secondary frontliner, but with a little bit more damage, a hybrid build. Many gods can play this role, as long as you build them correctly. The standout gods are Tyr, Sylvanas, King Arthur, Nox, Khepri, Sobek, Ganesh, Amaterasu, Shak, Kabrakan, Ymir, Odin. They all have an ability which can set up a kill for someone else. Use it wisely on easily killable enemy targets. Remember, pinning down that enemy tank isn't much use to anybody. When building these gods you want to prioritise 3 things: attack, defence and cooldown, and these can all be obtained through hybrid items, which provide both attack and defensive stats. Sledge, Void Shield, Cacadia Shield, Runic Shield, Mystic Mail will all do a perfectly fine job for you here. You can build full hybrid and still have more than enough power and defense to hit hard and take a few hits too. Similar to tanks, your role here is to provide both defense for your team and set up kills. However, you are a little bit more focused on the offense. You can deal damage too, but remember, if you dive in first, then enemies can potentially jump on your backline, so don't be a headless chicken just running in. A good relic pick here is Blink, as it allows you to very quickly get in amongst the enemy and use your ultimate as an engage. Now that the roles are decided, let's talk about strategies. The key feature of Arena is to clear the minions in the middle. One wave is the same as one kill, and this is how the majority of the enemy tickets are going to be lost. Don't let the enemy minions get through. Every 10 kills spawns a siege minion. Use this to push up the lane, and when you hear one spawning you should all group together and push it in. Now when it comes to the fights themselves, the whole game mode is basically one big 20-minute team fight, which I've already mentioned several times in this video. No game mode will teach you better how to team fight than this. I'm planning on doing a separate video on teamfight mechanics soon anyway, so I won't go into too much detail here. But basically, tanks need to be at the front, waiting to either engage or protect allies for when the enemy does. Wait for enemy abilities to be on cooldown before engaging or try to bait them out. Mages should be further back, throwing out consistent damage as the enemies group up. Hunters and assassins are waiting for an opportunity to catch an enemy out of position or follow up when your frontline manages to pin an enemy in place. Remember, for the early and mid stages of the game you're not going to fare too much well on your own, but when you hit that late game you can engage on your own and absolutely shred the enemy's health down. If you are watching this video as a new player, then stick to those tips until you get comfortable with the roles. However, if you are a more experienced player looking for more advanced tips to win at Arena, then I've pretty much only got one, because there is only one: crowd control combinations. At higher level Arena play, it all comes down to combination of abilities between gods. For example, Ymir's freeze holds someone in place, so combos with pretty much anybody who has a huge damaging ability. Odin is similar, with a large cage that holds people in an area, meaning that an AOE ability can follow up and do huge damage. Aphrodite can make someone immune to damage for 2 seconds, so if you can get all of your abilities out in that time, then that's pretty much them dead. And that sounds broken, right? And that's because it is. Nerf it immediately. Play around with god combos until you find something that works for you, and those Arena wins will start stacking up. I hope this video helped. If you've learned anything today and want to see more, subscribe to the channel to see a new guide every single week. Thanks very much for watching, and good luck out there.